Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kubefirst Live. It's our live stream bi-monthly or bi-weekly. I never know which one to use, but like every 2 weeks, it's our show. We talk about Kubefirst stuff, cloud native, Kubernetes, like everything that we feel is exciting enough for a show. My name is Frederick Harper. You can call me Fred. I'm a developer advocate at Kubefirst, and today I'm obviously not alone. I have John with me. John, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello. Yeah, no, it's great to be here, Fred. We're excited to talk about some cool tech, and I'm one of the Kubefirst co-founders, calling in from the DC area, and just happy to show off some Terraform in Atlantis today, Fred.
That's awesome. And I know for people that are joining us and that saw that we were supposed to be three today, Jared was supposed to be here. He left us alone. He didn't want to have nothing to do with the live stream. Now, joke aside, we were just like, hey, you know what? We're good, the two of us. We can talk about technology we like, we're passionate about. There is so many things to do with Kubefirst, like so many features and things we want to bring to the next version. So it's like, you know what? We're gonna do the talking and go do some coding. So this is kind of the idea. So today we're going to talk about HashiCorp Terraform and Atlantis. That's going to be a deep dive. But for those of you that joined us before, there is a small change in the format. You probably know, you've probably seen, or even if you know us personally, myself and John, we tend to talk a lot. So having both of us on the show, that's the sure thing that like this show will like keep happening and will stay long and long and long. We're going to talk for minutes and hours, and we do a lot of demos. We love to talk about those things. We love to show that, but I am taking like 10 minutes to explain to you that the live stream is going to be a little bit shorter. So we are trying a new format. It's not because we don't have enough content to talk about. It's not because we're not about to talk for a long time. It's just because we feel it's more manageable to take a smaller chunk of your time during the day to watch us live or even to watch the recording. So we'll see how it goes. I'll try to be the time police here. It may get out of my mind, but like we'll try our best to keep that shorter live stream than we used to. You know, we used to do 1 hour, 30 minutes. Like we're gonna try to keep this around 30 minutes, John. Like, do you
Let's
think
get in
do you
and
think we
out.
can do that?
I think we can do 20, Fred. I don't know. Let's
Oh,
see.
God.
Let's see.
That's good. That's good. Let's try that. Let's try that. So today we're going to talk about HashiCorp. It's one of the technology I really like. Actually, it's one of the technology we love at KubeFirst. It's integrated within our platform. So when you deploy a new cluster, you have Terraform already working for you. Actually, we use Terraform to create your new cluster. And I really love the technology. Like I'm a big fan of infrastructure as code, and it's one of the best platform out there. And obviously, I don't want to start a war about platform. Like is Pulumi better Terraform? Like we prefer Terraform for different reasons. This is what we use. But as I said, big fan of infrastructure as code because you do things usually with Git or you can have versioning. You have the history, and the thing is that you don't need to use Git when you change things in your infrastructure, but the fact that you write down and you don't do ClickOps mean that like it's easier for you to track what has been done and what you want to do and what you can replicate or even revert back to changes that you've made that may not be the changes that you should have made. And what's great with Terraform is that it's extensible like beyond the infrastructure. It's open source, so you have access. There's like company that create their own providers, so it's not you just don't need to wait for HashiCorp to have like updates with a provider when, let's say, like a new cloud company decided to have like a new product, a new feature. They can update their provider themselves. There's a CLI. Hey, for those of you that like the command line, the terminal, like this guy, it's perfect. Again, it's open source, love it. And you have plan that you can apply. So again, when we talk about GitOps, it's really interesting to have that history to really understand what's going to happening. And if you have a good review process, someone can go there and check what's happening with Terraform if you're applying the right plan. And yeah, just great technology overall. And the second technology we're going to talk about today is Atlantis, which I mistakenly said that it was HashiCorp technology. Mea culpa to all the open source contributor on the program. For years, I just thought it was a HashiCorp technology. Even if there's no word of it on their website, it's not listed in their product. I just thought that it was, an open source project that they started, they worked on. It is not the case. So even in the promotion of that live stream, I said some things that I should not have said. But still, it doesn't mean that I don't like the product. I really love the product. What's great is that it really helps you to had one step of automation on top of Terraform. Like it really turns Terraform into a GitOps tool. It integrates with your Git provider, so GitHub, GitLab. It's easier to do some log audit because things are happening in your Git platform of choice, and it remove needs for access and give you the opportunity to automate some plan and apply those plans. So you may have seen if you use Atlantis or if you try Kubefirst, or if you look in our documentation, we show you that when and we're going to show you today, but when there is a plan, you don't need to merge the PR yourself with the changes with that you've done with Terraform to your code by using Terraform. Atlantis will define you the plan, will show you the plan, so you can review properly what change you're going to do to your infrastructure or whatever you're going to change with Terraform. And you can have peer review and you can apply directly with Atlantis, so you don't have to do this yourself. Atlantis will do the job of applying the plan, merging things to main or master, and even deleting the branch for you. So quite magical tools. The two together help us to have even a better GitOps platform and manage your Kubernetes cluster. So, with that said, unless John has something to add to the quick intro about Terraform and Atlantis, but we're a developer here, probably going to jump in the action with the demo and show you how it's working.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to play, Fred. We're at let's see, 7 minutes and 40 seconds. That 20-minute goal of ours seems like it is at risk. It does.
It is.
Let's see what we can do anyway.
I started to talk. That's really hard for me.
So let me know when you're good on my screen and I'm ready to start demoing.
We're good. We hear you. We see you. We see your screen. We're good to go.
All right, so just for reality calibration, Kubefirst installs into a number of different clouds. We even have a local environment. What we're going to be showing you today is we're going to be working with the Civo GitHub version of Kubefirst. The Civo GitHub version, basically you run a single command against an empty or populated, for all we care, Civo account. And then we'll create the cluster for you. We'll add all the tools to it. We'll manage the cloud resources with Terraform, and we will just deploy Kubefirst. And at the conclusion of that Kubefirst install, you get a screen that looks exactly like this.
And
now, when I ran...
Oh, sorry, John. I was just going to say you don't see it because now you're like showing your demo. But Jared left a message on YouTube and say like, "Hey, I'm here in spirit, Fred." So thanks for being here, Jared. Yeah.
We miss you, Jared. So this screen that we're looking at right here, when I installed Kubefirst to Civo, one of the values that I have to provide is what domain to attach it to, and I have this fake domain called kubefirst.tv. So the result of an installation is that you get a kubefirst.kubefirst.tv, and then it creates this console application that allows you to get to a lot of the key applications that you're going to need to always go back to if you're using the Kubefirst platform, tools like HashiCorp Vault, tools like Argo CD, Argo Workflows, Atlantis, etc. The GitOps repository that we create for you as part of that Kubefirst installation is actually derived from an upstream repository that we have also in GitHub. So if I go to Kubefirst GitOps template, what you'll find here is a whole bunch of root level folders that represent all of the different places that we can install Kubefirst to. So if we look at the Civo GitHub example, in here, there's a Terraform directory that has a Civo, a GitHub, a users, and a Vault entry point. So let's take a look at the GitOps repository that we create for you. So when you do an install, we download that template, we hydrate it with details that you give us about where you want your cluster placed, and then we give that GitOps repository right back to you in your GitHub organization. So the name of my fake organization here is is Kubefirst-TV. And when I click this, this is what you get as the Terraform that's powering the cloud infrastructure that we've created for you in Civo. So if we take a look, and actually it's a little bit easier if I show this to you in VS Code instead of in GitHub. Let me make sure that I have latest main. And I do. So this Civo Terraform entry point here just has a main TF, and this basically has a provider established, a place that we're going to keep our Terraform state store in Civo, and pay special note to the key here. There's going to be a tight correlation between the keys that we're specifying in the S3 backend and the entry point that we're establishing. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. But there's just a handful of details here. We are instructing the Civo Terraform provider that we want to run our code in NYC1. That was a parameter that we provided when we were installing Kubefirst. And we basically have a network, a firewall, and a Civo Kubernetes cluster called Kubefirst. And if we were to look at, let's see, actually got a cluster name of Kubefirst TV. So if we hop in the Civo Kubernetes dashboard here, you can see that there's this Kubefirst TV that got created in this account. There happen to be some other Kubernetes clusters and some other infrastructure in this account, and it's not a big deal. The point here is that the one Kubefirst cluster that we created when we installed Kubefirst is this guy right here. And everything that powers Kubefirst is in that Kubernetes cluster or in this cloud managed by Terraform infrastructure as code.
Hey,
so
John.
there's other, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Before you continue, sorry to cut you out, but there's some like weird clicking when you talk with your mic. We didn't have that before we start the show. Now it's there. I don't know if you can switch maybe to your laptop microphone, so it's just going to be easier for the hear of people.
Yep.
And while you do that, we are talking about Civo. It's a new thing that we added. It's a new cloud provider that we added with V2. So V2 and up, you now have access to AWS and Civo, and you can also deploy Kubefirst locally using Key3D. It's all there in V2 and up, and the next version after the V2.00. More information at the link I just showed on the blog. So let me see if your voice is as beautiful as I know it should be.
How are we doing right now?
That seems so much better. You also have that radio voice.
Like well, I don't know about all that. I don't know about. I try to pretend to be my best Fred, but you know, I still need a little bit more practice. Thank you for correcting me on that microphone issue. So that's the long and short of the Civo entry point that you get by default with Kubefirst. In AWS, it would be very similar, except instead of having a Civo directory here, you would have an AWS directory. And instead of a Civo cluster, you would have an EKS cluster and a handful of additional resources with IAM and stuff like that. We also have a GitHub entry point for Terraform, where we manage the repositories that we create, like the Metaphor repository and the GitOps repository. We have our teams so that developers and administrators can have GitHub teams that are managed with our infrastructure as code user story. That user story itself is a different entry point. where we manage our different admins that are on the platform, our different developers that are on the platform. It's all, Terraform IAC, and we'll show you what that looks like in just a sec. And then we also have Vault managed in Terraform. That's across all of our stacks. We always have Vault, GitHub and or GitLab, and the cloud itself, and a user module. Those are basically the four pillars of IAC that we deliver with every Kubefirst install so that you can get started fast.
We have the repos too. I don't know if you name it.
Sorry, say that one more time.
We have the repository folder for Terraform too. Like if you want to manage your own GitHub or GitLab repos. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so the way that these entry points work is where Atlantis comes into the equation. So we're defining that basically when you run Terraform as a command line tool, you're probably familiar that like where you're running Terraform matters. What directory you're in is very relevant to the Terraform plan and the Terraform apply that you're executing. And in Atlantis, it's no different, except that it's fully automated. So basically what you're doing is you're establishing different Terraform directories that are going to have their own Terraform state, and they're going to have a somewhat limited scope in the amount of infrastructure that they're trying to manage. And then you have to define in Atlantis that is that's a directory that includes Terraform that you want to run some automation against. So let's look at the Atlantis YAML together. Here you can see that we have 4 directories defined, and those represent these 4 Terraform directories that come with the Kubefirst platform. And you can see that we have some simple rules in here that say, hey, when some .tf, which is the Terraform file extension, whenever one of those files in one of these directories changes, we want automation to run. We want to see a Terraform plan happen. And if you like the plan and you get an approval, we want to see a Terraform apply happen. So let's take a look at what that looks like when we make a change. So we checked a moment ago that I am on latest main, and I'm going to go to my Civo directory, and I'm just going to create, well, first things first, let me not change anything. Let me just change the file. I just hit enter, added a new white space change, and I'm going to commit that. And let's start there as a foundation of how Atlantis and Terraform work. So let me commit that change.
I'm pretty sure that change is going to create like 4 new virtual machines.
That was a terrible checkout name. That's a commit message.
One.
We're going to open a new pull request that just has, as you can see, it's just a new line at the end of the file. But because we've changed a .tf file, like the Atlantis spec said, what's going to happen is over in the conversation space here, Atlantis is going to wake up and say, hey, something changed in this Terraform file. My rules are that I have to run a plan and show you what the plan's result is. So it ran a plan and it says, hey, something changed in here, but it didn't change any infrastructure. There's no changes. You can go ahead and apply this. It's not going to make any infrastructure changes. So that's what happens when there's no change. Sometimes maybe if somebody's using Atlantis incorrectly, they might accidentally merge it themselves instead of allowing Atlantis to merge it. And then it would be a part of the main branch. And then it's like, well, how do you get the plan to run? All you have to do is make a white space change ever, and it's always going to run a Terraform plan. Now, in addition to that, you also have the freedom of typing Atlantis commands in as comments on your pull request. So if I wanted to proactively run a plan without doing a git commit, I could type Atlantis plan, And when I hit comment here, that comment, what's going on in the background here is there's a webhook that's associated with the GitOps repository that's sending a request to Atlantis to this events route every single time a comment happens. And if the comment is one of these special Atlantis comments, then it'll do some work for you. So you can do things like manage your Terraform state. You can unlock your plans, you can rerun plans, that's also how you would do a Terraform apply, is to type the command Atlantis apply, and Atlantis will do that work on your behalf. Now, what that means is, as an administrator, if you want a self-service internal developer portal where your development teams are able to submit infrastructure as code changes, that doesn't necessarily mean that they need access to your cloud. All it needs is access to add comments and submit pull requests to your infrastructure Git repository, which is a very powerful distinction as a security engineer, as a platform engineer, allowing that self-service model so that developers can contribute to your infrastructure, but forcing it to always go through an approval model and be auditable through your GitHub audit log of all the changes that have ever happened.
And this is the benefit of it. Even if you don't give access to to other people in the team, and you're the one managing that, you still have like all the logs of like everything you've done, and it's not just on your machine, because it's easy to that happened to me in the past where I changed something in Terraform and they're not committed, but I applied a plan. So now we have like changing the infrastructure, but it's only on my machine, so it's not useful for the rest of the team. Trust me.
That's exactly right. So so this is kind of a boring plan so far, and that makes sense because we've only done boring stuff so far. So let's go ahead and add
with
something.
The boring stuff.
Yeah. Let's knock it off with the boring. So let's go down. This is what it looks like to create a Civo Kubernetes cluster in Terraform. Let's create another one. Let's just pretend for a second that that's our normal management cluster, but I want to have another cluster that's just for hacking around in. So I'm going to create a new hacks cluster, and instead of giving it that name from up above on here and here, I'm going to give it the name hacks. And let's
I feel like we're like in the movie when there is a hacker and there's like a lot of bunch of like weird text that goes on the terminal, and like everybody that don't know what's happening feels like the person is hacking stuff. So now we use the word hacks. It's like that.
That's right. Yeah, it's pretty hardcore, isn't it? So so I just pushed to a branch that already had a pull request open, and Atlantis responds automatically to updates to that branch once that pull request is open. So you can see that I didn't have to type Atlantis plan in order for this new plan to kick off, just because I added a commit to a branch that had a pull request open. Atlantis is going to automatically fire every time. If we take a quick look at what is happening in Atlantis, you can also see that there's a Kubefirst TV GitOps plan that has been stored as an enveloped plan that can be applied. There's been a lock that's applied to this entry point, and only one change is able to go into the infrastructure at a time on a given entry point, so that you don't get into these circumstances of two cloud engineers making changes to the same entry point at the same time, and a possible collision of conflicting IAC, which doesn't happen regularly, but when it happens, it gets really messy and it's hard to untangle. So having a lock structure built into the foundation of you running your infrastructure as code, super valuable. If you ever had a plan and it was locking an entry point, and you wanted to unlock that plan, you could go to the Atlantis UI and just unlock the plan. Also, if you were ever in a circumstance where there was a demo going on and you wanted to make sure that nobody made any IAC changes, you can disable all apply commands and nobody's going to be able to run infrastructure as code changes until it's re-enabled.
And it's
You
super.
can.
Sorry. You go ahead.
One last detail is that you can do that same unlocking methodology on the pull request directly itself. So over here, if I type Atlantis unlock, and it's not just me that's able to unlock a plan. My coworkers are able to unlock the plans as well. So if I started a plan and I got a lock on an entry point, and then somebody else, and then I went home for the day, and somebody else needed to change that entry point, but I had the lock, they can unlock it on my behalf by them commenting on the pull request Atlantis unlock. And then I know that I was impacting them, and they know that they were. It's a nice setup. It's pretty well thought out. Sorry, Fred, you were
Yeah, I
trying
was
to
just going
interject.
to say that the lock is super useful because Terraform can get a little tricky with the states of like what's the resources that has been deployed, and if it's different from the file or the plan you try to apply, it can get a little bit tricky. So that's a nice feature. Like just for that, I think it's worth it to use Atlantis because I think it's easier to manage that than just being again on your computer with your CLI and doing like whatever you need to do. And I need to say that I should have put some bets on that, but like when you told me like, hey, we're gonna do this in 20 minutes, I was like, yes, John, we're gonna do that. And now it's 25 minutes, and I feel like there's still a little bit of things that I would like us to talk about that are important. But let's move forward with the plan. Apply that plan.
Yeah, let's get it done. So because I unlocked that, it got removed from over here. Now that I'm running a new plan, it's coming back. And in a second, we're going to have a fresh plan that shows us that we're going to create, and there it is. We have a brand new Kubernetes cluster that's being created. It has the name Hacks. Let's go ahead and apply it. When we apply this, thank you, Fred. When we apply this, I'm going to go over to the Civo Kubernetes dashboard and refresh. And here we can see we have a new Hacks database being created. And this, unlike what happens with the Kubefirst installed management cluster in Civo, this cluster is going to be empty. It's going to have nothing in it. It's going to be just a brand new mint condition cluster that I can add Kubefirst to. I can add some tools to and hack around. I can do whatever I want. And at the end, I can throw it away the same way that we added it. So even if
the like Civo dashboard is well done, I like it. I feel like it took time because you explain everything, you show an example, but I feel it's just faster to do a PR with my change something in the code, do a PR, and like voila, like things are happening instead of like going in the browser, opening the tab, like going on the dashboard, finding where to create it, click on the right thing, configure the right thing. Like I just can't do this with my keyboard, no mouse. It's the perfect world for me.
Yep. So here we can see the apply executing. You can see that it's been about a minute and 30 seconds. Generally speaking, if you get lucky, you're gonna get the cluster complete in about 90 seconds in Civo, which, just to kind of highlight the difference between some of these newer, more cloud native clouds versus some of the original pioneers in the cloud space like AWS, the big three. To create an EKS cluster, it can take 15 minutes to get a master control plane. It can take another 10 minutes to get some nodes and attach it to that cluster. That's 25 minutes you're waiting to get a Kubernetes cluster to just start iterating. And then you want to destroy it, and it takes 10, 15 minutes to destroy as well. That's a long cycle. That's really what's got us excited about the Civo experience, is this cloud native Kubernetes infrastructure. You just get these blazing fast cluster provision speeds. This Hacks cluster is absolutely ready to go. And if we go back excuse me, if we go back to Atlantis, you can see that the create is complete. This one was a little slow, 2 minutes and 10 seconds. My goodness! But in another cloud, you still got another 23 minutes
fast.
to wait.
It's still
Yeah,
fast.
it's just blazing fast. So,
And
no, please go ahead, Fred.
I was just going like that. That's nice, but like, what if you want to extend the Kubefirst platform to an entire new team, like a whole new infrastructure, because now you just created something within like Kubefirst.
That's a really good point. So, Fred's exactly right. We're editing the Kubefirst Terraform entry points. And generally speaking, you don't have to do that. The Terraform entry points that come with Kubefirst can just be Kubefirst resources. You're not handcuffed to using our entry points. To create a new entry point, basically all you have to do is create a new space for it in your Git directory structure. So let me go one last detail. Let me hit refresh here. Since that apply completed, it automatically merged the pull request. It automatically closed everything out. It detailed the results. If that had failed for some reason, and sometimes that happens, you get a good plan, but you go to apply it and it fails. If it ever fails, you can keep committing to that branch and getting a new plan until you're able to get the apply to happen successfully. Once it applies successfully, it's automatically going to merge and close. So because it did that, let me switch over to my main branch. And pull, and we're going to create a new entry point for, let's pretend that it's like a new team that's on your project. Maybe it's like your mobile team, right? So we'll create a mobile team entry point. We're going to keep it on the same Terraform versions and everything else. There's no directory in Terraform for that. So let's go ahead and create one. We'll start with the one that's just like Sivo as an example, but we'll call it mobile team. And that mobile team, maybe they need some Sivo Kubernetes cluster as well. But let's pay special attention again to this topmost key. This key represents where the Terraform state is going to be housed in your cloud bucket. And when you do Terraform, especially when you do Terraform at scale at a large organization, these Terraform states can get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the bigger they are, the more time consuming it is to get a plan and apply, because it has to reconcile against everything that's in the Terraform state. So our guidance to everybody listening is keep your Terraform states as reasonably small as you can. Bite-sized little buckets, group them logically, keep them separated, and then they're able to shift around as much. If you need to change your mind later and you want to combine things, you can with Terraform state moves and stuff like that. But keep your states small, have more entry points, and it's just going to make for a more frictionless, fast-paced, smaller scope ecosystem. So
good call. And the thing with like Terraform, it's I would say that, like, at least on the infrastructure side, it keeps you real when it comes to GitOps principle, like where Git should be the source of truth. So like if someone went in, let's say, the Sivo dashboard and decided to like change the infrastructure, like Terraform will let you know, like the server is like, it became the source of truth with, like, and it should not be that. You should not do that at home.
All right, so we got a new change set ready. I'm gonna create a new branch again, hopefully a little more effectively this time. And we're going to open a new pull request. And that's going to, in theory, kick off an entirely new Terraform plan in a new entry point for some infrastructure that's going to be largely detached from everything else that Kubefirst provisioned and all the other teams provisioned. This is just a new team space for them to have their own cluster, and you could extend it to include whatever else you wanted in that cluster or in that cloud or in that Terraform or whatever. So you can see that in the plan, we're going to create a new firewall. We're going to create a new cluster. We're going to create a new network. All of them have this mobile team as a name. I like the plan. Let's go ahead and apply it.
Good job.
And then in theory, in a couple seconds, this dashboard is going to show that there's another Kubernetes cluster being created, but it has nothing to do with the infrastructure that Kubefirst provisions during a Kubefirst install. You're extending that Kubefirst platform and allowing it to manage additional teams and additional clusters, and however far you need to extend the Kubefirst platform for your organizational needs. You're able to start with the Kubefirst management cluster, leverage Terraform IAC, leverage Atlantis. And the end result is super cool. Like, all of the changes that we've been making today are all pull requests against a GitOps repository. And the GitOps repository has not only some Terraform content, but it also has some GitOps content. So all of the applications that are delivered to your management cluster, great tools like Argo CD, Argo Workflows, HashiCorp Vault, etc. All of their configurations are in this GitOps repository as well. So once you have your app GitOps configurations in this repo, and you have your IAC in this repo, what you end up with is a pull request closed audit log of every single thing that's ever happened to this environment since it was created. And you don't have to use too much imagination to imagine, a year from now, you'll have 1,000 pull requests. But as an SRE, when there's a problem that you're trying to investigate and you need to know what has changed in your infrastructure recently, being able to go to a place like the GitOps closed pull requests and see all of the application configurations that have changed recently and all the infrastructure as code changes that have changed recently is incredibly impactful to being able to find that root cause of a problem faster than not. And because it's all in Git, if something is found that shouldn't have been merged, you can just revert it and then you're back to your good state. So that's pretty much what we wanted to show today, Fred. I think how'd we do? 37 minutes. That just wasn't quite good enough.
Yeah, and there's my 15 minutes conclusion to the live stream that I need to do.
Can we make it 25?
25. Let's do an hour. But joke aside, everything we've shown you today, it's available. Actually, you can do it yourself. You can install Terraform, you can play with it. It's free, it's open source. There's Atlantis too, another open source project. You can deploy this on your cluster. You can use this even if you don't use Kubernetes. But if you want to make your life easier, you can try Kubefirst. Kubefirst is going to help you to deploy all the tools we'll talk about and a lot more, as I said before, in AWS, Civo. And if you don't want to pay for cloud just for testing Kubefirst, you can do this locally with Key3D. We make it happen. You just need to have like Docker running and you're good to go. And we shown you on GitHub, but it's also available on GitLab. So either check the repository or go on kubefirst.io/download. This is where you have instruction about like how to install the CLI and how to start to install or create your cluster. And come see us on GitHub. Put a star. We like those.
We
it's on
love
Kubefirst. Yeah, Kubefirst. And we have the documentation. It's available there. It's also a GitHub repository. So if there's something you feel it's not clear, there's a typo, you create an issue, you let us know. You create a PR if you want. We always welcome contributor, not just for the docs, but also for Kubefirst itself. And we are social creators. So come to our Slack. Come to our Slack community. We have obviously like channels about Kubefirst, but we also have like a Kubernetes channel, a GitHub channels. We don't talk just about Kubefirst. It's just a place where people creating application, deploying application, people in the cloud native space, Kubernetes lover, this is one of the place to go. This is one of the communities. So hopefully we're going to see you soon on that community. And with that said, John, you know that was coming.
Oh, I do know what's coming. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Why did the developer use a credit card to buy all the gift?
Why did the developer use the credit card to buy all the gift?
Because he had cleared all his cash.
Well played. Thank you, Fred. I don't have the button on hand, but I'll give you a personal round of applause for that. That was fantastic.
That is, I have no merits for those. I just find them on the internet. I don't even remember. I have to read them, but I feel like now it's part of the live stream. So on that note, any quick one last word?
No, just we're listening. So if you have any issues with the new 2.0 that we released, we're real happy about the 2.0 experience. But if anybody out there is having any issues at all, we hope you'll reach out and let us know about it so that we can get that whatever issues patched for the next folks that try it out. And if there are any new tools, any thoughts, whatever the community wants, we are actively listening to the community, trying to figure out the right way to organize cloud native tools so that platform teams can get started fast. So stay vocal in the community, and hop on in and ask questions live also.
Yeah, and be real. We want real feedback. I know we're doing all something, and we're happy when we have positive feedback, but like, be real. Something is not good. Something is not what we were expecting. You want some new features, some new clouds that we are not integrating yet. Let us know. We are there for you. So on that note, have a good rest of the day, and see you in 2 weeks for the next Kubefirst Live.
We'll see you there.